finally make the trip home to play Brisbane Strikers at Jack McLaughlin Oval. They have ventured far and wide, going as far west as Perth, as south as Melbourne, and as north as Queensland during the last 3 seasons. After making the grand final last year, where they were defeated by Sydney United, they get another shot at reaching the biggest stage in the NPL. But their opponents don't get much tougher. The back-to-back premiers from NPL Queensland. It's their second shot at the NPL Finals title, and last year the Strikers fell at this stage, going down in a tight one to eventual winners Sydney United. It shapes as a cracking contest, Edgeworth Eagles versus Brisbane Strikers, live this afternoon around the country. My name's Ben Homer. With me in commentary this afternoon, we've got former Broadmeadow Magic coach Damien Smith and former Lake Macquarie, one of many clubs, Chris Turner, in the box with me this afternoon. Boys, how do you see this one going?
Well, good afternoon to everyone. Look, this is going to shape up to be a cracking contest. There's obviously two sides that have had great seasons, and the conditions here this afternoon, it's very hot, it's windy, and it's just seemingly not going to give the players too much rest. So,
in the NPL, an impressive record. They didn't have a great FFA Cup run this year. They were knocked out in the first match they played. After going all the way to the round of 16 last year, as Edgeworth did. They were knocked out by Melbourne City. And they led that match, actually, did the Strikers, only to concede 2 penalties in the match to lose 2-1. McLaughlin now to Sanders. McBrain just tries to thread it through for Keanu Moore, who started the season at Bentley Greens and has since made his way back to Edgeworth after being at the club last year.
That was a very unlucky touch there for McBrain. He just tried to slot it in behind the defence. It was well cut out.
Yeah, Ryan Palmer just looking for Jeremy Stewart there up front. Keep an eye out for him. Number 11, he's the Strikers' leading goal scorer. He scored 15 in the NPL this season, and only 2 of those were penalties. Let's go long looking for the tall timber of McBrain. Falls back for Sanders, but Angus reacted quickly. Now for Evans, who plays against one of his former clubs, Josh Evans. He played for the Strikers in the NSL, played 1 match for them back in 2003, the 2003-2004 season.
Just looking at Brisbane's lineup, we thought McLean was playing up front with Stewart, but he sort of dropped into the number 10 role. So they're sort of playing a 4-2-3-1 from what I can see at the moment, to a 4-4-2 diamond for Edgeworth. So that's going to be really compact.
Changed that around yesterday, and no NPL Queensland side has made it through either. So interesting to see what transpires this afternoon. We'll get a new winner.
Yeah, just on this competition, I think it's a great initiative by the FFA. I think it's exciting for the local NPL players around the country to play against the elite NPL players in other states.
Keanu Moore, NPL New South Wales, has dominated the competition, winning 3 of the 4. The Metro Stars from South Australia, the other victors. Here's Aidan Bryce and Keanu Moore. Just an offside on that far side of Jack McLaughlin Oval.
And we said at the start of the game that these teams are very evenly matched, just in, I think, in skill level, probably in coaching discipline as well. They've, both sides have been very disciplined at the moment, especially in defence. There's no one out running. They're very compact in defence, and they spread the game in attack. So this is going to go down to the wire.
And Smudge, you've mentioned you've had something to do with the Brisbane Strikers coach. Come across him before?
Yeah, he only took over about a month ago. Owen Baker, sorry. Yeah, I knew his face when I met him.
Here's Josh Evans. You knew he's there. This is a very interesting story, Smudge, and yeah, I'm going to let you tell it.
Yeah, I knew his face. I shook his hand just prior to the game. We were just having a bit of a chat about their travels because they had a few issues in the travel arrangements coming up to Newcastle, or coming down to Newcastle, sorry. But yeah, I just knew his face, and then I sort of walked away, went back and said, mate, he actually played against Broadmeadow Magic in the first inaugural FFA Cup game, Brisbane Strikers versus Broadmeadow Magic at Broadmeadow.
This one curled in. Wheeler away in 2014. The Strikers won that 2-1 in extra time. That was a match where Josh Piddington and Chris Bowling both got sent off from memory in extra time. It was a dramatic start to the FFA Cup and probably a great way to kick it off. And we saw on Wednesday night a great match between Blacktown City and the Wanderers. Wouldn't have that been great to see the NPL side get up, but in the end, Wanderers were able to do it in the penalty shootout. But let's hope South Melbourne can give Sydney FC a real test in the semi-finals. Here's Amori. South Melbourne, of course, beating Edgeworth 1-0 in the round of 32, and Edgeworth probably found it, or could find themselves unlucky that they didn't get the job done there. Holtz tries to find McBrain. That man, Daniel McBrain, missed a golden chance in the first half of that one right before the break. But he stood tall in big matches for Edgeworth. That was probably the only blemish since he's come to the Eagles. He came back here. He played previously in the last century here before embarking on that professional career. And then he came back to the Eagles in 2016. Won the double with them. And then this year, the premiership.
Just looking at Brisbane Strikers, just there when they're playing the ball out from the back. Their left fullback and right fullback, Knight and Amora, like to spread wide really quickly, and they push up a little bit high. Therefore, their back centre too in Hensley and Marshall could get exposed. So that's where Edgeworth need to look to try and break that ball down and transition quick, because they do spread really quickly, which is great for attack. But if the other team who plays a quick transition could actually expose them.
Well, the other thing that we can see as well with Brisbane is that Amori and Knight that you're talking about there, Smudge, is they tuck in when they need to as well. So, you know, if Knight goes and Amori's tucking in, so they're very balanced.
Keanu Moore looking wide for Corley. Well defended in the end by the Strikers. Here is McBrain, chesting it across to Sanders and away through Palmer, and now clear through Michael Lee and McLean. His ball just lets him down a little there as he was looking for Jeremy Stewart, who asks him, what was that?
Just McLean said to Stewart, you can get that.
You're the
Stewart
striker.
gave him a bit of a smile, gave him a bit of a smile. So
it's Josh Evans. Interesting stat is that Edgeworth haven't won without McBrain.
Great ball.
Here we go, we'll come back to that in a sec. Here is McLaughlin.
Great ball from Brazzari.
Curling it in, Sanders was waiting, but as that, Mamori was there waiting as well. Here's Palmer. Switch sides, Ryan Palmer, and he's burnt away from Aiden Bryce. Now Jeremy Stewart, but Pat Wheeler was awake to the danger. And he's defended that really well, Pat Wheeler.
We had McLean sitting absolutely on his own back stick and making a run with a lot of space. And unfortunately for Wheeler, he got that away, because that could have been big trouble for Edgeworth.
So just onto that McBrain stat. They haven't won without McBrain scoring since July, when they beat Western 3-0 here at Jack McLaughlin Oval. As Adam Corley just caught offside.
Just two things here. Brisbane Strikers see they're going for the offside track, pushing up very high. If Edgeworth could play it quicker and be alert to it, someone like an Adam Corley or a deeper midfielder could actually make that run beyond and chip it over the top, then they're away. But I just noticed Michael Lee and Jake McLean have just swapped over a little bit. McLean's gone playing more central when McLean's gone a bit more to the right. Probably give him a bit more space.
Sam Knight back for Hensley. Holds it low for Stewart. Now for McLean, curling it in. Evans is quick to react. Corley may have played that straight to Doherty, and has. And Don Bazzari has to foul Ethan Doherty. He's got some pedigree, the tall midfielder. He headed over to Scotland to play with Partick Thistle in 2015 and did his ACL, so he didn't actually play a game for their under-20 side. And he came back to Queensland. He played for Far North Queensland Heat before he headed over to Scotland. He's the son of the coach at the time, Martin Doherty. So came back to Queensland 6 weeks into this season.
Interesting, we've got Amori on the ball here, whether he decides to whip it in, but definitely on the left foot.
Here he is, Hiroki Amori, curling it in. Doherty was there. Here's Michael Lee, but Dylan Holtz was above him. You remember Michael Lee, he's He's been a hero on a number of occasions. Last year, he was the goal scorer to lock up the FFA Cup match that Redlands United played against Adelaide. You remember when Eugene Galekovic fumbled it and Michael Lee scored. And he also scored in stoppage time in the NPL Queensland Grand Final last year against Kieran Sanders, who's now with Edgeworth. His final with Queensland Heat side to win 3-2. This one curled in. Here's Stewart, a free header at the back post, and he doesn't make the Eagles pay somehow. I was certain that was going in from Jeremy Stewart, and the Edgeworth Eagles dodge a huge bullet there.
Well played by McLean. Great to pinpoint Stewart out, but the way Stewart pulled himself away from Pat Wheel at the back stick and had a free header and was very unlucky. Very unlucky. Well played by Brisbane strikers.
Can Edgeworth produce the ultimate sucker punch here? Marshall turns away from Speedy and then gets bundled over by Holtz. Palmer then gets cleaned up by McLaughlin. And Stephen Laurie is going to give the free kick to the strikers. No cards yet.
What I'm seeing here at the moment, Brisbane strikers, they're just overloading the midfield.
Just see Stephen Laurie having a chat to McLaughlin. We're just approaching the 20-minute mark in this first half, boys. How have you made of what have you made of the opening 20?
Look, I've been impressed with Brisbane. We haven't seen anything of them at all from us. And
Josh Lowe.
the way that they have closed the space up when they need to and condensed the midfield has been a real key. And they've had some great opportunities through some good attacking play. You can see that they're well practiced.
Just on that shot from over halfway from Michael Lee, if that was on target, Lowe would have carried that into the net. So very, very lucky, Josh Lowe.
And that was that wind as well. It is from the west, but it's just a tad behind the strikers. It's from the north a touch, the west-northwest. Here's McLean. Sits up nicely for Doherty. Doherty just couldn't get a piece of it. He will win his side a corner, though.
And just generally on that first 20 minutes, we can see Edgeworth have been on the back foot mostly, and Brisbane are the team that's looking most likely to score, and almost did with that free header when Lowe was beaten.
Yeah, and what they're doing, well, they're playing like with a five-man midfield, in essence, a 4-3-3. I think either Sanders or McBreen need to drop about 10 yards back in defence and just help out because they're overloading the midfield and getting space.
That was a huge moment, that header from Stewart. For it not to go in, here is Michael Lee chipping it and not finding the target.
You get a real sense that Brisbane are just, they know that there's something on shortly, and that they're pressing and pressing and pressing. You can just see in their body language, they're right up for this one.
And Mark Bosnich made a really good point when Edgeworth played South Melbourne in the FFA Cup. He was asked, what style do they play? And he said they play with flow. When they've got their foot on your throat, they will go for it. They just haven't got to that point in the match, and when they are under the pump, it's all hands to the pump for
and
the Eagles.
what they've done very well, now McLean's on the left-hand side, Palmer's on the right-hand side, Lee's in the centre. They rotate their midfield, the whole five, not just the three central midfielders, but the whole five midfielders. They just rotate really well. And they keep their back four locked in and Stewart high. All the rest sort of rotate, and they do it very well. And every time they pass the ball, there's movement, there's a forward run off the ball.
Here's Amori, diminutive, and that may be a little too heavy. Well, it isn't too heavy. That's really well run down by Sam Knight. Sprinkler's on the pitch pre-match, making it a little quicker. Michael Angus almost ran into a cul-de-sac, but found Palmer. And now Amori, his nickname Hero, chipping it back for Doherty. And again, Pat Wheeler. She's been a star for Edgeworth this year.
And again, if
those 1%ers as we have our first drinks break of the afternoon. Drinks breaks due to the heat here in Newcastle. Over 35 degrees here at Jack McLaughlin Oval. So we're having a drinks break midway through each half. Smudge, your thoughts on that opening half of the first half?
Yeah, I thought Brisbane were the better side. They play some really good stuff, don't they, CT? The interchange through midfield is very good. But, you know, Edgeworth weathered the storm. Brisbane's got the wind sort of slightly behind them, and it's quite a gusty wind as well. So, but for Damien Zane, I think Sanders or McBreen probably just needs to drop back in the midfield because just in defence, because at the moment Brisbane's got that extra man in midfield. They're rotating really well, and they're just sort of overflowing and Yeah, they're just overflowing.
You lost your
Yeah, I
words,
lost
haven't
my
you?
words. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. And so, and yeah, because Edgeworth, they're trying to compact the space. However, there's that extra man. Their movement off the board's very good, Brisbane. So I think, to be honest, Edgeworth's lucky to be 0-all at half time, or after 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's exactly the way it's going at the moment, and Brisbane will want to get back on with this. You can see they're already getting back out there. They know that there's something on, and they're pressing hard. They've been creating some opportunities, good balls into the box, headers, strikes on goals. They've been getting free kicks, which means Edgeworth are under pressure. So they just want to get back on with this and get back out there.
And I think the other thing what Damien Zane could exploit, if you know, in that last passage of play, Brisbane had a good chunk of possession, but they're right in the fullback. Sam Knight and Morey got high and wide, both of them, exposing Hensley and Marshall just at the back. It was 2v2. So if Edgeworth could win the ball, compress the space, win the ball, and transition really quick, straight to McBreen, straight to Sanders, it could create a few opportunities for him.
So we're back underway after the break, so that will be added to the stoppage time at the end of this first half. So we'll at least have a couple of minutes. There's Josh Lowe. He's got a bit on that. That's a couple and over the touchline. They've got a great record here at home, Edgeworth. Have lost just 3 of their last 27 matches here. For the Brisbane Strikers, they had a superb record at home as well. They didn't lose at Perry Park all season. Here is Sanders. He's looking on the volley there, but decided against it. Back for Bryce.
Oh.
Bryce finds an unmarked Keanu Moore. Hensley got there just in time. Michael Angus now gives it away to Sanders. The question I've got here is, does that drinks break just stifle the momentum that the Strikers had?
Well, that's
They
what I
really
said.
were on top, weren't they?
That's why I said they would be keen to get back out there and keep on with the flow that they had. And you saw Edgeworth come out. They had the ice. I don't know whether you got it on film or not, but they had ice packs on the back of the neck, standing in the shade. They just needed a breather.
I'd also like to see Edgeworth right in their fullback get a little bit wide, a little bit higher as well, just to spread the game a bit when they've got the ball. And again, Brisbane Strikers playing a high line here.
And Bryce, Keanu Moore just slipped over. Sam Knight back to Zach Speedy. Kiwi Youth International. Marshall now. Moves it up to his opposite centre back, Josh Evans. Amori now. To Michael Lee.
It's very compressed. And this is where you'll see Sam Knight break wide here, their right fullback. And there's space galore on this right-hand side. Like I said, I'd like to see McBreen or Sanders just drop about 10 yards deeper, fill that void of the number 8 in Angus.
Sam Knight whips it in towards Amori. They will win themselves a corner. Brisbane away from Perry Park. They won 7 of 11. Still a great record. Just 3 losses during the 22 matches in NPL Queensland. But they didn't win the grand final. They didn't actually make it to the grand final. They lost to Moreton Bay in the semi-finals. It's a cutthroat semi-final system up in the north. It's
a
straight
one-off
semi-final.
game.
One-off semi-final. They went down 3-1 to Moreton Bay. They had a few injuries late on in the season. Here is Josh Lowe. He did well to keep the original shot out. It is across the line now. And Brisbane Strikers, they deserve the lead. It was pinballing around there. And in the end, it looks as though it's Ethan Doherty celebrating. But it's very difficult to tell which, because the ball looked like it crossed the line a couple of times in all that. And I think it was Doherty whose shot first crossed the line. But we'll double check that.
Yeah, we haven't got replays here, but it looked like Josh Lowe just got a little bit off guard with the wind there, and he sort of slapped it back into, was it Doherty, we thought?
Yep, Ethan Doherty.
Doherty, sorry.
It's Corley. But they deserve that, don't they? Nothing short of what the Strikers deserve.
Well, that's right. They've been on top of this first half of the first half. And they looked like they've been going to score. And, that, as I said, when the break was on, they wanted to get back out there. And Edgeworth were taking a lot of water in and looking a bit under pressure.
It was just announced on the loudspeaker that Jeremy Stewart scored.
Well, I'll double check with Mal from the FFA in just a tick, as this one trickles towards the touchline. Here's McLaughlin now to Wheeler. Now Knight. Here is Doherty. Skating down the touchline. They're continuing to apply the pressure to the strikers. Lee now tries his luck, and Josh Lowe grabs that one nicely at the back post. What have Edgeworth got to do to stop this momentum that the strikers have got at the moment?
I think the main thing is they need to be tight, need to be compact, especially for the last 15 minutes, because like I said, Brisbane Strikers has a great ball in.
Here's Sanders. So they look to quickly reply. That's going to go with the wind over towards the touchline and beat Kieran Sanders over it.
Yeah, they are playing into the wind this half, Edgeworth. So long as they stay compressed, tight, in defence, spread the game when they've got the ball. But the main thing is not concede again before half-time. Damien Zane will get him in there. Probably change a few things, I think. I'd probably, like I said, probably drop McBreen or Sanders back into a number 10 role just to even out their midfield. Because at the moment, Brisbane's got that extra man in midfield, which you could tell when they've got possession of the ball.
So another long throw is to be on the way from Aiden Bryce here. McBreen looking for the flick on, but Marshall is there. Bryce now. So the winner of this match, due to the amount of points that both of these two sides have accumulated, will host the grand final. Wheeler powers the header downfield. Heidelberg have only got 14 points. The Strikers 17, Edgeworth 18 before this match. Rory now towards McLean. McLean maybe unfortunate that he didn't win the free kick there. Keanu Moore now to McBreen. And he produced the Midas touch once again. Corley tries to step away from the solid frame of Greg Hensley.
Great challenge by Hensley on the box.
It's a terrific ball in from McBreen there as well. Most people out in the park, I think, thought he was going to play it back, and he saw Corley unmarked and played an excellent ball directly to him.
4 goals in his last 4 matches for Edgeworth, Daniel McBreen. Just 5 during the regular NPL season, or across the season in the NPL Northern New South Wales. And many of them in the back half.
But you mentioned it was 36 degrees. It's currently still 36 degrees, and only just had a look on the weather that it's only due to drop 1 degree by the end of the game. So normal service will just continue as far as the weather goes, and it'll be interesting to see how that impacts both sides in the last, say, 20 minutes of the game. Could expect it to open up a little bit more.
Yeah, I tend to agree with this there too. But in saying that, like, the standard and the intensity of the game so far in this heat has been outstanding.
McLean, he got away from Bazari with ease. Just looked to be struggling for a moment there, Don Bazari in the heat. Here's Stewart. So inside the final 13 minutes of the first half here in Edgeworth. This match originally scheduled to be played at 4 p.m. yesterday, but due to the Strikers having some issues with, well, it was their flight. The weather in Queensland wasn't pleasant on Friday night, and the plane couldn't take off, so they had to fly up yesterday instead. McLean now. Palmer, nice interplay here from Angus, and now to Lee.
They always tend to have numbers in the midfield, don't they, CT? They always tend to have numbers in space, Brisbane.
Yeah, they sure do. I mean, a lot of the times it appears that they've got like too deep and too high, so they're playing almost like a box, 4 in the middle at certain points. But as you say, you know, they're not scared to rotate their troops around at all, and it works, you know, as we see them go a bit flatter through the middle of the park now.
But what I'm impressed with is their movement. Once they play the ball, they're making a forward run. They're moving every single time the player moves.
Aiden Bryce now to Corley. got such a slight frame, Adam Corley.
And McLean, he always positions himself into space, doesn't he? Just on the left or right side, into the pockets, always in space.
Do you sense substitutions in this match are going to prove crucial with that fatigue that is going to be in the legs of players that have to play the full 90?
Well, that's right. They're going to be, managed very carefully and probably looked at more closely than you normally would. And that's just going to be essential for that last 20 minutes or so of the game.
That was well reeled in by Michael Angus with the outstretched boot. And now it provides the opportunity for Brisbane to come knocking on the Eagles' door again. Amori just holds it up and chips it towards Lee and Palmer. Nice touch from Palmer. Michael Lee still going somehow. Evans has dealt with it momentarily and Wheeler puts it over the line. I don't know how much Josh Evans knew about that, but he'll take it.
And again, a deep run from midfield from Brisbane, from Michael Lee. It causes havoc, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Angus, for me, playing the number 8, he anchors the team up so well. He's always just in cover and looking to pick it up and move the ball and pick it up and move it on. And I think he's very key and influential player for Brisbane.
And he probably only moves about 10 metres laterally, doesn't he? Just sits in that centre of the park, just picks it up in that number 6 role.
And you can see him now. He's sitting deep, waiting for the scraps to come out, and he'll redirect traffic again.
It is called, and Wheeler is there.
For me, I think it's crucial for Edgeworth to limit the damage and go in one time. If they can pinch a goal, that would be perfect for them. But if they go in 1-0, Zane will be reasonably happy.
Well, he'd have to be happy with only one at the moment because it could be a couple more, and Brisbane will want to consolidate and in the flip side of things, go in with another one, and they'd love 3.
Here's Lee tonight. Lee found McLaughlin instead, and Keanu Moore now able to keep the ball inside the line. A little bit of frustration. The Eagles midfielder. That touch from Palmer, a little heavy. We said in this first half the wind is just slightly behind Brisbane. Do you think that's having an impact at all on the field position? Because they have had majority of the ball down Edgeworth's end in this first half.
We're just looking at Josh Lowe's goal kick. See, the wind held the ball up quite strong there. So I think it's quite a strong wind sort of behind their right-hand shoulder, Brisbane's shoulder. So I think it is a slight advantage, definitely.
We'll find out in the second half. We'll see. Here's Stewart. Now wide for Knight. Lovely touch on Michael Lee. And well blocked by Evans again. He's had to do a ton of work. The former striker. And Michael, Brisbane striker, I should say.
Yeah, and Michael Lee again, playing the 1-2, making that forward run beyond the back 4. He's looking very dangerous. The whole Brisbane side look dangerous, don't they, CT, going forward?
Yeah, they really do. And we're talking about the wind. For me, it's here nor there. I know that it's predominantly going across the park and maybe favourably, in favour of Brisbane, but they'll come out in the second half and play the same way.
There's Amori curling it in. Doherty there again. He's been probing from the corners. The tall man, Ethan Doherty, just 20 years of age.
We saw in yesterday's game, didn't we, Bart? Heidelberg and Apia, that wind was so gusty, wasn't it, down in Melbourne?
Very gusty, and it was with Apia in the first half. They only managed to score once through Corey Bisco, I should say, and then Heidelberg overran them in the second half. Here's Sanders. Now McBreen tries his luck, and it's better for him. Edgeworth, they've created a chance, but McBreen just not on target. Interestingly, last year in the semi-final against Sydney United, Trent Clulo scored for Brisbane Strikers in the first half down at Adenza Park, and they went on to lose that 2-1 after Sydney United scored 2 second-half goals. Trent Clulo now down playing for Bentley. He would have been with Keanu Moore when he was down there at the Greens. There's Bizarri.
And again, the pressure on the ball, what Brisbane give is really spot on, isn't it, CT? Every time Edgy's got the ball, they put pressure on the ball, Forcing turnovers.
Just opened up there for a minute for Keanu Moore and McBrain. Sends Dylan Holtz on a run. It's Speedy. Just blast that one over the touchline. There's Aiden Bryce just struggling for Edgeworth. He's in trouble, Aiden Bryce. Is it
I think it's his
a lack?
thigh, I think. But we're just talking about that pressure in the midfield, Smudge, and it's the amount of pressure that Brisbane are putting on. It's forcing the turnovers for Edgeworth. They just haven't got the time, the space to actually play the football. And, you know, for them to be going back to the keeper as much as they were doing probably in the first 20 minutes or so was a good reflection of that. Now they're trying to force the play a little bit, and they're just being caught out of possession because of it.
Yeah, and one thing what Edgeworth can do is probably spread a bit quicker. They're not spreading quicker when they got the ball, so open the game up, give them more room to play the ball, and that's what Brisbane's been doing really well. Once they get the ball there, right and left fullbacks, they spread.
Yeah, and it's almost a cautious stay in alignment, you know, and stay a bit more compact, because if it does turn over, they're going to get caught out.
Strikers could be on their way again. And the second best attacking side in the NPL Queensland with 68 goals. Just over 3 a game. Here is McBrain. As quickly as that. Edgeworth turning a little bit of pressure into some attack of their own. And he'll be disappointed he didn't at least put Zach Speedy under some pressure there, Daniel McBrain.
Yeah, and that's good. Aaron McLaughlin getting forward. As you know, he's great cross through the ball. It's a great ball into McBrain. In the second half, I'd like to see Aaron McLaughlin and the Aiden Bryce is getting a little bit higher and wider and delivering those balls into McBrain and Sanders.
Well, McBrain would want that one again. He just, you would back him to put that away, you know, 9 times out of 10. He'd be kicking himself at a crucial point in the game.
Sanders goes up. Yeah, the Western Pride, who Jets fans will actually remember, Harry Sawyer headed up to the Western Pride about 6 rounds into the season. He scored a bucket load of goals for them, and they are the best attack of the season in NPL Queensland. The Strikers, they were the best defensive side. They conceded just 21 in 22 matches. Edgeworth conceded just 14 goals in 20 matches this season. So both sides with stout defences.
Even just there, that play from Edgeworth, Aiden Bryce playing into, so Evans playing into Aiden Bryce. I'd like to see Bryce right on the touchline, spread the game. It was 5 yards in from the touchline. It was easy pickings for Brisbane to put pressure on him.
Here's Holtz, just on that defensive trend. Clean sheets for the Strikers this year. They had 9 in 22 league matches. Hensley lets this one back, plays it to Speedy. Edgeworth, they had 9 in 20 matches in the league. So they're very close in terms of their defensive records, these two sides.
And again, Stewart just hanging off the shoulder of the two stoppers. He ran offside on that occasion, however, it's dangerous. He's like a Barisha, isn't he? Bessart Barisha runs off the shoulder.
Sanders now holds it up, gets brought down by Doherty, clattered into him. And Edgeworth looking to play this on quickly. They've got less than 3 minutes before the break. There will be a little bit of stoppage time
great ball.
due to that drinks break. Speedy has to do a little bit of work. It was the only change Brisbane made coming into this match in comparison to the side they put out last week in the 4-2 win over South Hobart. That was Mitch Thorne dropped back to the bench, and Zach Speedy back from injury to playing goals. And Edgeworth, they made a couple of changes. Will Bauer to the bench for Adam Corley, who's in the middle of the park, and Pasquale, Lockie Pasquale. He headed back to the bench. Aaron McLaughlin into the side. And Lockie Pasquale, an interesting move because they don't lose often when he starts. Lockie Pasquale, there was a run there where they hadn't lost a match where Damien Zane had started Lockie Pasquale, who was the 2015 Rookie of the Year.
And just on Pasquale, as you know, he plays that number 6 role great. He just gets the ball and he just sort of is a pivot player, isn't he, CT? You're a massive fan of him. I think they're sort of missing out a little bit today out there.
Yeah, well, what he does well is he definitely screens in front of the back four, and he's a genuine out. His distribution is high quality. So when you've got someone like that, you know, you can get yourself out a little bit easier. At the moment, because Brisbane have been so good at getting numbers matched up against Edgeworth in defence,
Here's Stewart pushing forward. He looked as though he may launch one from outside the 18. And it's an interesting move from Zane because Pasquale is more of an attacking player than Dom Bazari. So he's gone for the defensive
Very high
option,
line here from Brisbane.
just to be a little more conservative against the strikers, which is an interesting move. Both play that defensive midfield role.
Well, he'd be obviously careful of Stewart and McLean. That's probably what that's all about. But, you know, the distribution of Pasquale is something that they could be using right now. What I was going to say before is that when Edgeworth get the ball, how quickly Brisbane number up to them. They get a player, they stick to it, and they have often 4 players when you're looking
Around
at
the
pockets around the ball, and it's really difficult for Edgeworth to get on the ball and play it out. That's why that width you were talking about, Smudge, is really important for Edgeworth. So they open them up and create some extra space so Edgeworth don't have those 4 players sitting on the ball.
I think also Zane should look for their high line of Brisbane. They play a very high line. They step up trying to get the offside trap. So if you get an Adam Corley or a Dylan Holtz, a deep midfield runner running beyond the back 4, as in like a set play, they could get opportunities that way.
They've got themselves a foothold in this match in the last 10 minutes, Edgeworth. Wheeler under a lot of pressure. He turns it over to Stewart. He's got some speed, Jeremy Stewart. He's got Palmer with him. He tries it himself, Jeremy Stewart, and he didn't miss by much. That would have been a hammer blow before the break. 2-0 up. The Strikers, another great chance for them.
That was a big opportunity, and Stewart saw Palmer just run offside there. That's why that ball didn't go to him. And that could have easily got past Lowe there if it was on target.
Yeah, Lowe was wrong-footed as well. If that just snuck in the post, Lowe had no chance. He was wrong-footed, so...
He was a spectator, wasn't he, Josh Lowe? Just watching that one. Here's Sanders. There's plenty of space out here on the left. 2 minutes of stoppage time, so that is basically just for the drinks break. We haven't had any stoppages apart from that in the opening 45 minutes. Here's Pat Wheeler. And it's the Strikers who deserve their lead.
Yeah, they've been good this first half, haven't they, CT, the Strikers?
Well, they really have. I mean, we've spoken about it pretty much all half, how well they've broken, how compact and rotating their midfield is. Defensively, and in attack, they run off the ball, and they've got numbers seemingly, and their two fullbacks are in play.
And the team really works hard for each other, don't they? Numbers around the ball in defence.
Well, that's the sign of a real unit, isn't it? Because that's what they are. You can see they're well practiced, they're organised, and they're a unit. And particularly, you know, with players like Angus in the middle of the park, he's really directing them around. You can see that he anchors them in.
We spoke about Angus earlier, just holding that pivot role in the centre of the park, barely moving 10 yards off his spot. Even then, he was slightly out of position, went straight back into the middle of the park.
McLean got clipped in the centre circle. And Stephen Laurie's going to bring it back for the final play you would expect of this first half. We tick towards the allotted 2 minutes of stoppage time. Michael Angus goes wide to Marshall, and Stephen Laurie will send these sides to the sheds. And the Brisbane Strikers, they lead by a goal to 0. And you can't say they haven't deserved it. Boys, your thoughts on the opening half here at Jack McLaughlin Oval?
Well, Brisbane Strikers will go into this halftime break thinking they could have been 2 or 3 up, and probably deservedly so. Edgeworth, on the other hand, for me, boys, will be going in thinking 1-0 is something that is a fair result for them. But, you know, all in all, Brisbane have been straight on the front foot, and they're deserving 1-0 halftime leaders.
Yeah, totally agree with you, CT. I think I really like the way Brisbane play. Like we spoke before, they really play as a team unit, don't they? Defensively and in attack. However, you know what? Edgeworth weathered the storm. Brisbane had the wind behind their back in the first half. So I think Zane would be reasonably pleased going in 1-0 at half-time when it could have been a few more. But, yeah, I've been impressed with Brisbane Strikers so far this game.
Yeah, really good first half. We're going to take a quick break. I just had a chat to Steve Laurie. It was Jeremy Stewart that scored the goal after the pinball in the box. We'll be back in 10 minutes' time. Brisbane Strikers leading Edgeworth by a goal to 0 at the break. now with Edgeworth. His far North Queensland heat side to win 3-2. This one curled in. Here's Stewart, a free header at the back post, and he doesn't make the Eagles pay somehow. Northwest. Here's McLean. Sits up nicely for Doherty. Doherty just couldn't get a piece of it. He will win his side a corner though. Had a few injuries late on in the season. Here is Josh Lowe. He did well to keep the original shot out. It is across the line now. Apply the pressure, the strikers. Lee now tries his luck, and Josh Lowe.
Definitely.
We'll find out in the second half, we'll see. Here's Stewart. Now wide for Knight. Lovely touch on Michael Lee. And well blocked by Evans again. He's had to do a ton of work. Here's Amori curling it in. Doherty there again. He's been probing from the corners. Here's Sanders. Now McBreen tries his luck, and it's better for him. The second best attacking side in the NPL Queensland with 68 goals. Just over 3 a game. Here is McBreen. As quickly as that. Wheeler under a lot of pressure. He turns it over to Stewart. He's got some speed, Jeremy Stewart. He's got Palmer with him. He tries it himself, Jeremy Stewart, and he didn't miss by.
Australia lead magnificently.
And Rice is off. Rice is off.
Welcome back to Jack McLaughlin Oval for the second half of this NPL Final Series semi-final between Edgeworth Eagles and Brisbane Strikers. We've got some news at the break. Edgeworth, they've made a change. Aiden Bryce has come off. He did have a thigh problem midway through the first half, and Aaron Apetesano, the Ruben Zadkovic lookalike, is going to head onto the park in 16. He scored a stunner of a goal against Adamstown back in round 3 in the NPL Northern New South Wales. And he played a handful of games. So the Strikers from right to left in yellow in this second half to get us underway. Referee Stephen Laurie gets us on our way for the final 45 minutes of the season for one of these two sides. It's a long season when you win the premiership and have to play in this competition. So one season will end after this afternoon. And the other team will host Heidelberg next weekend in the final. The winner gets a spot in the FFA Cup round of 32. Here is a Pedasano with a touch.
Great ball.
Boys, can you see a route back into this one for Edgeworth? A decent start here in the second half as McLaughlin finds Corley.
Well, if the first half is anything to go by, the route back in would be against the run of play. For me, Brisbane have been sensational. They've attacked in numbers. They've had good ball movement. They've worked well off the ball. But what I've been most impressed about is their defensive shape and the way they've gone about that, particularly through the middle of the park. When every time Edgeworth have been on the ball, Brisbane have been there in numbers. They've got a guy straight onto the ball, and then every player around them is picked up, and it's made it very hard for Edgeworth to play football. And unless something changes here for Edgeworth in the second half, I can see more of the same.
Yeah, I agree with you, CT. I think Brisbane were very dominant in the first half. However, Edgeworth's going to have the wind slightly behind them in the second half. I think if they use a bit more width when they've got the ball, a bit more pressure on the ball when they haven't got the ball, be a bit more compact, try and nullify the space and the mobility of Brisbane. You know, they're still a chance of the game. They're only 1-0 down.
Pedasano goes back to low. Got right under that one. Plenty of height. Bit of a wedge on that. Sanders now more, and McBrain just caught offside. They're looking to turn around a poor run of form in knockout matches, the Strikers, this afternoon. They've won just 2 of their last 6 knockout matches. That's inclusive of the NPL Queensland finals, the NPL finals, and the FFA Cup. So just a couple of wins in their last 6. One of those last week against South Hobart. The other last year against Canberra Olympic in the elimination final of this NPL finals. Apart from that, it's been a lean trot for them.
Great turn.
Nice turn from Doherty. Threads it through for Lee. Back heel to Stewart, who curls it and just couldn't dip it inside the far post.
Again, they're moving off the ball, CT. It's perfect at the moment. They're causing Edgeworth quite a few issues in midfield. They're not tracking their runners as probably Zane would like of their midfield runners. So another good chance for Stewart. They just seem to be first to the ball, don't they, CT, Brisbane?
Yeah, it's been a real feature, that's for sure. And
it's
just
a strong tackle from a Pedasano because McLean was breathing down his neck, but now Amori. Still Amori. And now hails from Japan. McLean now almost slid it inside the near post of Josh Lowe. And the offside against the Strikers. Hiroki Amori, born in Miyagi in Japan. Hopefully I said that right. 27 years of age. He's rated as one of the best fullbacks in Australia. That's not playing in the A-League at the moment.
And what I like about him, he obviously he's left fullback, knows his defensive duties really well, but he likes to get high and wide, got a beautiful ball in, a beautiful cross, hasn't he, CT, Amora?
Absolutely, and just the fact that he's naturally attacking in his nature of playing in that role makes it very difficult to mark a player like that. And you've been around this game a long time, Smudge. When you've got players like that running through your middle of the park and beyond and at your defenders, it makes it really interesting that the organisation of the opposition defence.
Here's Keanu Moore to try his luck. He doesn't. McLean, his opposite number, Sanders, harassing him. It falls for Moore again. That was an important intervention from Greg Hensley.
He's made a few important challenges today, hasn't he, Hensley? Right on that edge of the box. Great challenge.
He's born in Scotland, in Montrose. Greg Hensley, there he is again. Pedasano, who's the Strikers Player of the Year last season. Brain has Doherty to worry about there.
He's been good, hasn't he, Doherty? Especially he had a great first half. He's been pretty solid in the first few minutes in the second half.
So the wind in the second half, it hasn't dropped at all. It's still around 27 k's an hour from the west. As Evans back to low, so straight across the ground from this side, or the camera side of Jack McLaughlin Oval. And the temperature still at 36 degrees as it was at kickoff. So we are having drinks breaks. 22.5 minutes into.
And again, numbers around the ball from Brisbane. They do it so well. They condense the space, get numbers around the ball, make it very difficult for Edgeworth to play through.
Wheeler rises, falls for Corley. Now McLaughlin. And their best chance came through Aaron McLaughlin, curling a ball from the left edge onto the head of Daniel McBrain, who was at the back post, and he just couldn't find the target. Scored the winner for Edgeworth in the semi-final last year against Perth. And the 1-0 win in the West for Edgeworth. Sanders, just a little heavy for Daniel McBrain to get up to.
And you can see the wind take that ball as well. Sanders, he's just plotted that in the 18-yard box, and the wind sort of drifted it over to the byline. So Edgeworth's just got a fair, strong wind right behind him at the moment.
Yeah, for the viewers, it's going predominantly across the park, but favouring Edgeworth slightly.
Here's Evans. Marshall. Now Bazari. Neat touch to Holtz. There's that space being compressed that Smudge was talking about. Keanu Moore. Is that what you're thinking? Damien Zane has said to his side at halftime, just try and spread it out a little bit more.
Well, they need to, don't they? Because it's so tight in the middle of the park, and Brisbane condense the space very, very well. Got a good pressure on the ball with Brisbane.
Here is Wheeler. Now, about an hour and a half ago, there was actually a southerly change right in town in Newcastle at Nobby's Beach. I'm just starting to feel a little cool change, and that's going to favour the Strikers in the second half. They're going to love that. Definitely a little cooler change.
You could just feel it then, couldn't you, Bart? You just feel that little coolness to the breeze. Nice touch.
Evans now to Pedasano. So it's taken a while to reach Edgeworth, but it's here finally. The players are like that. Brisbane more so with the wind behind them. Pedasano. Now to Keanu Moore. McBrain. Does it sit nicely for Corley? It was a little high for him. Opted to backheel to McLaughlin, and McBrain is frustrated.
Yeah, I think if Corley had his chance again, he'd probably take a ping there. It'll sit up really nicely for him. Yeah, you definitely feel that breeze, can't you, Bart? Nice cool change coming in.
Yep, and the corner flags showing that wind is coming from the south.
That's the reason, Smudge, I brought that kick from Sanders before that free kick. I think he actually overhit it. The wind was sort of swirling a little bit, then it dropped. And then it did get picked up sort of in flight a little bit. So I think he's actually just overhit it, thinking the ball wasn't going to go as far as these southerly changes come in.
It was 22 degrees in town about an hour and a half ago, so 36 right here at the moment, but it's going to drop shortly, you sense. Here's McLaughlin. Now turned over. Michael Lee was almost off and on his way, but just a heavy touch let him down. 26-year-old Michael Lee from the UK. They've got a lot of players from over in the UK, from Bury.
Now, boys, hopefully in a minute or two we're going to get former Newcastle Breakers and Edgeworth footballer Mark Wilson come and join us in commentary.
See what he thinks of this match between the Strikers and the Eagles. Just offside, Jeremy Stewart, first half goal scorer. Scored from the penalty spot last week against South Hobart. This week on the score sheet from open play as McBreen threads it nicely for a Pedisano. Got some pace down the right edge, and a Pedisano. He scored from about 10 metres back from that position in round 3, and he's almost caught out Zach Speedy there. So Kieran Sanders will come to Mark Wilson in just a sec. We'll see if the Eagles can lock it all up. This one hovers high in the sky. Evans rises and just couldn't get a piece of it.
And we do have Mark Wilson here with us. Also, welcome.
How you going, C2? It's good to be here.
Terrific. And just for the people that don't know, Mark Wilson, former Newcastle Breaker and played here at Edgeworth as well, and long-term with the Breakers over a number of years, and a genuine midfielder, good hard work, and I'm guessing you'd love to be out there today.
I don't think I'd like to be out there today, mate. It's pretty warm out there at the moment, so yeah. But it seems a long time ago that I played with the Breakers. I'm enjoying it up here, watching the game and watching my former club have the success that they're having. It's just great to see the club in a great position, and hopefully they can get one back here in the second half.
Yeah, and then the Breakers were in the old NSL. We know that. The game's come a long way from there in Australia, and Edgeworth, as we see a substitution, but...
So Adam Corley making his way off the ground, and Will Bauer is on. Wonder how much that decision of Adam Corley not to take that shot a minute ago may have had to do with that decision. He just didn't get into the game, said Adam Corley this afternoon.
And the game has evolved, definitely, Will. So, how are you seeing this competition, this particular format, this premiers of each state? How do you see this concept?
I think it's great. It gives the players an opportunity to test themselves at the highest level in Australia, or the second highest level. I think a lot of players have got a point to prove, and I think they match up against a lot of the better players around the country, and I think it's great. And it gives clubs an opportunity to show what they're capable of as well.
And just before we go over to Smudge, what are you seeing of the performance from Edgeworth in particular today?
I think their intensity could be a little bit higher, but obviously the heat's a factor. But Brisbane are really well organised. I think Brisbane have invited Edgeworth to play into the middle of the park, and I don't think Edgeworth have been able to get through the middle of the park. So I think if they can start playing around Brisbane, I think the two opportunities Edgeworth have been down the left through Aaron McLaughlin, and I think that's probably the only way we're going to create anything is by getting around Brisbane and not into the middle of the park.
Mate, I totally agree on that. And that's why Zane's made the change. He's brought off Adam Corley and brought on Will Bauer, playing him on the left-hand side. Looks like he's gone to a 4-3-3 formation with Sanders wide and Bauer wide, which will actually spread the game a little bit more, which we said in commentary. Edgeworth just playing too much through the centre, and Brisbane Strikers just condensing the space really well.
And that's typical of Zane. He's identified that at half-time. I think the early stages of this second half, we're seeing a few more attacking rays from Edgeworth, so hopefully it works. It looks like it's paying off at the moment.
And just on Edgeworth, obviously you're in the team of 30 years. Somehow you made that. Obviously that cost you a little bit of cash. And your brother, and there's some big names there, but also Damien Zane, the coach. He's been tremendous for the club, hasn't he? For Edgeworth Eagles.
Massive. I played obviously with Zane. He was a great player. He's adapted.
We'll just stick with it here as Amori. Almost a chance he pushed towards the box. McLean, and then cleared away momentarily by McLaughlin. Doherty. Now back for Evans. Keanu Moore just relieves a little bit of pressure for the Eagles.
So you had some time playing with Zaney as well, you're saying?
Yeah, I played with Zaney. Very professional attitude to football, and he's taken that into his coaching. I worked a little bit with Zaney when I was assistant coach.
Holtz now to a Pedisano. Cuts it in. He's been dangerous, Aaron Pedisano, since he's come onto the ground. Sits for Bizzari. Strikes at Bizzari. Just couldn't keep the shot down. Good ray there from Edgeworth, but they couldn't make it count.
Yeah, so he's he's done a great job with Edgeworth, and what I like about Zane is he's not afraid to change things. He gives young players opportunities to express themselves, and it's just been an amazing 3 years since he's taken over, and he deserves all the success he gets because he's very brave in what he does, and I'm really happy for him in the club.
Well, it's no fluke that this has happened. He's built this, and there's a lot of confidence, a lot of strength about the club, and you know, you've got a couple of good names, big names out there, but the rest of them have developed into that, and they're a close unit that looks like they could be together for a long time.
Yeah, hopefully they can stick together and continue to build, and not only do well in the league in Newcastle, but do well around the country, like in this competition.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely, and they've represented this region of Newcastle particularly well over the last few years, and doing again today. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no
Will,
worries.
really
Thanks for
appreciate
having me,
that.
and keep up the good work. I enjoy listening to Bar TV, so keep it up, and just keep the jokes up as well.
No worries at all. Cheers, Will.
Thanks, guys.
Here's a Pedisano. Now to Wheeler.
I knew I had to get something wrong.
Turning around Wheeler, and now chipping it up and over the top to find Sanders. So no changes yet for the Strikers. They've decided to keep with the 11. Owen Baker, who's come in to coach the side, wasn't the coach during the NPL season for the Strikers. Sean Lane was. He left at the end of the season. He's living on the Gold Coast, and it's just too much travel. And their coach last year, Kevin Ahern Evans, he was also living a little far away from Brisbane, and he left the club at the end of last season when they won the premiership as well. So
Yeah.
he's now at Noosa Lions, Kevin Ahern Evans. He's got some pedigree as well, playing over in Europe.
There's no reason for Brisbane Strikers to change at the moment. They're looking quite comfortable. There's still a long way to go. They still look fresh. Their legs look fresh.
And obviously they'd be used to the heat a little more than Edgeworth, being from up north. Josh Lowe. But Aaron Pedisano, since he has come on, I've looked a little more threatening Edgeworth down this right-hand edge. He brings a little bit of...
He's lively, isn't he?
Yeah, a little bit of energy, a little bit of electricity to the home side. Amori, a touch to Angus, who just trod on the ball. And then Kieran Sanders gave him a little push, which was deemed illegal by Stephen Laurie. So they've got Kigo Moriyasu. Here is Michael Lee, charging it low, squaring it up. You sense if the Strikers grab a second here, it could be all over, and somehow it's not a corner. It's come back off the Strikers.
And again, Michael Lee plays the run, makes that forward run beyond the back four. He's having it about 3 or 4 times, and he looks very dangerous every time he's on the ball. He's quite elusive. He's got short steps, but he's quite quick over the ground.
Josh Lowe thumps this one. McBrain, does he get there first?
It's been a good battle with McBreen and Hensley and Marshall.
Just incredible. Daniel McBrain at 40 years of age. I know you don't like to mention his age, Smudge, but just impressive that he is out there, and most likely, from what we've heard, he's going to go around again next year with the Eagles.
I was just going to mention before a little bit earlier the work that Marshall and Hensley have done on McBreen. He's far from finished, McBreen, as far as his career goes. When I say that, he's got another one in him at least, and probably more. But the job these two guys from Brisbane have done on him has been exceptional. They just haven't given him the room to play. Normally, he just gets that little bit extra space, but you know, you see players like Marshall at the moment, you're not going to give him anything, and he's staying absolutely solid tight as he is right here. And there we go, just a little half touch. So they're the types of things that have been important.
Nice touch from Keanu Moore onto Bauer. He let it run on, but Sam Knight used his body really well. And then lumped it long up to Michael Lee. He turned away from Wheeler and Bazari and then threaded a perfect ball through for Jake McLean and
Right.
Pat Wheeler. That was outstanding.
But again, that deep run from midfield is the key. McLean made that deep run. Hensley, great ball in by, Lee. Great ball in by Lee to McLean. But yeah, I think if McLean had his time again, first time shot at the advancing Josh Lowe.
Absolutely, but you know, on the flip side of that, let's take nothing away from Pat Wheeler and that tackle that he put on there. They're the sorts of tackles that sometimes can just be a little bit over the top and cause a penalty, but he did everything right there.
Yeah, timed it perfect. This is where I'd like to see Edgeworth have a bit more width. Will Bauer's gone nice and wide, which is good.
That's why he made our NPL Team of the Year this season, Pat Wheeler. Superb at the back for Edgeworth. So did Hayden Bryce as well on the bench, who's left the park. Josh Evans too, the skipper. They've had a great season in defence. Wheeler's had to get on his bike again.
Oh.
And this time Jeremy Stewart is able to evade him. A Pedisano and the cavalry coming back to stop him in his tracks, but it's now with Amori. Now for Ryan Palmer. Still Palmer, and Holtz has got only one option, and that's to put it over for a corner.
Great turn by Stewart, wasn't it?
It's a big period of the match here. If Brisbane grab a second, that could be curtains for Edgeworth.
But as you know, Bart, Edgeworth, they play out the full 90 minutes. They've scored many a goal in the last 15 minutes, especially in the local NPL.
Yes, I've got the stats on both sides. Final 15, which we are approaching. Go through them after this corner as it's whipped in. Up rises Marshall, and somehow it's kept out.
Brisbane were appealing for a handball there, is what it looked like, and
very well chested down. I believe it was Holtz.
It was Holtz, and
he did well, didn't he?
He did. It's just one of those awkward height. The awkward height of the ball that came in. And you know what? Again, Edgeworth under pressure.
Yeah, Stephen Laurie refereed the National Youth League grand final last year between Melbourne City and Sydney FC. Blew a penalty deep in stoppage time, and that one for a handball in the box. Had a chat to him about that, and he said it's a bit of a shock. 97 minutes, 7 minutes into stoppage time. That was a hot day as well. Here is Sanders, holding it up as he does so well, Kieran Sanders, and then wins the free kick, and he wants to get on with it quickly. So the final 15 minutes this year in the NPL, Edgeworth, they've scored 12, conceded 2, and those 2 were both conceded in the last 15 minutes of extra time. So between the 75th and the 90th minute this year, Edgeworth have not conceded, and those 2 conceded in the last 15 of extra time were against Lambton in the grand final. And for Brisbane strikers in the final 15, they've scored 14, conceded 10. As we have our water break in this second half. Midway through the half due to the high temperatures here in Edgeworth. It is currently sitting at 35 degrees. And that southerly that seemed to be on its way has sort of dissipated. I've actually got on my app that it's coming from the north at 20 kilometres an hour, but I disagree with that. It's definitely not coming from the north.
Yeah, hard to tell, but just on the first 20 minutes of the second half, I thought that was a better account from Edgeworth. They got in behind a few times, looked a little bit dangerous, used the width better. However, Brisbane strikers still look dangerous going forward. They are a very good side, aren't they, CT? And they still look comfortable.
Yeah, they do. And for me, not much has changed for them, despite a change to Edgeworth's shape. They just keep going about their business, don't they? They just work well in the middle of the park. They shut Edgeworth down very, very quickly on the ball. They limit their options, Edgeworth's options, by being so tightly marked in and around. So it forces them to play long or turnover, and that's where they've been very dominant in today's fixture.
Just on the referee, Steve Laurie, he's had another superb game today. He's barely been cited, has he, CT?
Yeah, I think that's why one of the key features we've spoken about this referee. We for the viewers in Brisbane and other parts of Australia, is that we expect to see him on the national stage at some point in the A-League, and that's certainly a goal of his. And the way that he holds himself in games like these is fantastic. He's done a great job again today, and his personality lends itself to exactly that. And he's a good fit for a game like this.
And I've got a great story about Steve Laurie from Tuesday night. The Japanese officials that were meant to be refereeing the Matildas game against Brazil were injured in a car accident on their way to the ground, which was terrible news on the M1, which is the road between Sydney and Newcastle. So Steve Laurie actually got the call up to referee the game. He was going to referee that match, and then Lara Lee, who's actually on the W League panel for referees, she was actually going to watch the game in the crowd, and she got called up to referee the game. So they had an all-female refereeing panel, which was a really good thing for the international, as they would like. And Lara had to grab shirts and boots, borrow shirts and boots from everywhere. So it was a bit of a frantic one on Tuesday night. And yeah, Steve Laurie almost got the call up to do the Matildas game as well, which shows you how well, how high regard he is held.
Yeah, and he's been very good today.
Well.
There's been a few rash challenges, not many, but just a few, and he's just calmed the players down. And he's very hot, and there's a lot at stake as well.
Here's McBrain. He's not going to be able to run that one down, Will Bauer. 20 minutes to go now. And still, it's Brisbane with a 1-goal advantage. On chances, you probably say it could be up by 2. Brisbane, they have had their chances, Edgeworth, and they'll be looking to take them. Here's a Pedisano on the angle. He just couldn't find the shot on target there. We know he can hit them from there, don't we, Smudge?
Yeah, well, here, was it round 2? Round three. Round 3. He's probably about 10 yards further back, and he just nailed it right in that top right-hand corner. So he sort of just rushed that. He wasn't real well balanced when he went to take the strike. So, but that was, look at a bit of a sniff for Edgeworth.
He's speedy. They would have a lot of confidence in the final 15 minutes, Edgeworth, considering that record that we spoke about previous.
But I will say I'm really enjoying watching Brisbane back four. They work in unison, don't they, CT? They're like a pendulum going forward with the left and right fullback going, one dropping, one staying, one going forward. They always keep their 3 at the back. Every now and again, they'll push their 2 high and they'll leave 2 at the back. So there's a few holes there for Edgeworth to exploit, but very rarely have.
Yeah, just generally speaking, and those 2 we mentioned before, in Marshall and Hensley, they've done a great job. And I agree that, you know, the attacking nature of their fullbacks has been a key for them as well. But it's a good release when they win the ball in the middle of the park, Brisbane, and then they've got these sorts of outlets, and you've got players like that being able to run on in Amori and Knight.
Palmer now to Stewart, who tried to go with the outside of the boot to Michael Lee, but Pat Wheeler is quickly over there.
And just on that phase play, Brisbane strikers transition going forward. As soon as the ball went up to Stewart, they had numbers around Stewart going forward in support. That's what they do very well. That's what Edgeworth actually do really well, but they're probably not as doing it as well today, maybe because of the heat.
So Damien Zane has Kiko Moriyasu, Japanese sensation. He was a sensation last year. He hasn't had much of an impact, as much of an impact in 2017 as he did last year. He was the Eagles' leading scorer in the NPL with 9 goals. He is on the bench this afternoon, so we'll wait and see if he can have an impact. If he does come on the ground, you would expect, considering they're behind, that he will come on at some point. Brisbane look as though they may make their first change. Here's Keanu Moore rising. Back to Bauer. Tried to find McBrain. Couldn't make it through the wall of bodies in the way. Here's McLean. Wide for Lee. Amori making the run down the flank, but just couldn't keep it inside the line. And it will be Luke Marsh, the Strikers super sub. Scored plenty of goals off the bench for the Strikers. Scored 4 times in 2016 in 17 appearances. This year, just the 3 goals for Luke Marsh. See if he can add to his account this afternoon. The goal scorer, Jeremy Stewart, making his way off the ground.
He's been good, Jeremy Stewart. He's been very busy. Even in defence, he works hard, trying to shut down the back four when they've got the ball. He's been very impressive, Jeremy Stewart. Every time he's got the ball, he's looked dangerous.
Played for Sunshine Coast Fire last season and scored 6 goals. That was his first season of NPL football. And this year, he's gone from strength to strength. 15 goals, as we mentioned. Evans, low to McBrain. Now to Sanders. Can they conjure up something here? Kieran Sanders. Wide for Will Bauer. Sam Knight tracking across well. Still Bauer. Cuts it across the face, but it's going to go on top of goal. And harmlessly out for a goal kick.
He's just back on Jeremy Stewart. He's had a superb game. Very dangerous going forward. Got great touches. He drops into the pockets when he needs to help the midfielders out.
Luke Marsh just onto the ground. He scored last year in the NPL finals. In the elimination final, he scored the opener against Canberra Olympic in that one. A match where 2 of the 3 strikers' goals were scored by Canberra Olympic. They scored 4 of the 5 goals in that one. Did Olympic in the 3-2 defeat. Here's Keanu Moore on the turn. Bauer. Started last week against Canberra Olympic and off the bench this afternoon.
And again, Brisbane numbers around the ball. They do it very well.
McLaughlin takes on and beats Palmer. Sanders arriving late at the back post. Now a Pedisano. Couldn't quite get the contact he wanted. Now Michael Lee away.
So, Smudge, not only did Brisbane have numbers around the ball, they kept Edgeworth in a tight area. And by that, I mean on this side, the commentary side of the park, there was a huge amount of room and Edgeworth just weren't able to come out and pick. The reason why? Mostly because if there's a turnover, Brisbane are back on again. And so, they've done that particularly well all game.
Michael Angus. Chips forward for Luke Marsh. Appeals for handball against a Pedisano. And Stephen Laurie awards them the free kick. So the wind now strong from the south. It's definitely swung around. And we are into the final 15 minutes now. So Morey and McLean. It will be McLean to curl it, and Josh Lowe gobbles it up at the near post. Lowe quickly to Keanu Moore. Has to go back to a Pedisano and now back to their keeper again. This is credit to the structure of Brisbane. Forcing Edgeworth back and now try and find some holes, some chinks in the striker's armour, but they're very difficult to find. Limited chances for the Eagles this afternoon.
They're very disciplined. There's no one out defending, is there, CT? They just hold their structures really well. And when the ball's played backward, then the team pushes forward.
Bauer, there's a Morey, away.
As soon as the ball's played, that's when the team go together, don't they?
Just going to say, this is the first time, really, we've seen Pedisano on his own. He's going to create some opportunity here.
From Tari, Aaron Pedisano. He takes on and beats McLean, squares it up. McLaughlin, Doherty got a clip from Aaron McLaughlin. And the crowd not appreciating that decision.
McLean very lucky there. He nearly fouled Pedisano as he went round him. Stuck his leg
very
out.
Easily, didn't he?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if he clipped a Pedisano, it would have been a penalty. So McLean, a little bit fortunate there. Better by Edgeworth, using the width a bit better, getting a Pedisano. And they had McLaughlin just earlier on the left-hand side, higher and wider.
Well, because Brisbane had them so condensed on that far side of the park, the Pedisano was out here and he was calling for it a good 30 seconds before it came his way. So he was on, he knew he had a lot of space. And I guess that's what Edgeworth need to do. Switch the play. If it's going to be that tight, open the play back up and switch it out to players like a Pedisano on this side and McLaughlin out on the left. they can do that, then that's a good opportunity for them to penetrate into the Brisbane territory. But at this stage, Brisbane is still feeling very comfortable, Bart, and they're still in command.
Yes, I'd have to agree with that. So it will be Zach Speedy, the youth international from New Zealand. Almost into the final 10 here at Jack McLaughlin Oval. Here in the semi-finals of the PlayStation 4 NPL finals. Ben Homer, Chris Turner and Damien Smith with you in commentary this afternoon for this one. Jeremy Stewart with the goal for the Strikers in the 28th minute. Holtz, Sanders. Sanders had Holtz making the run. He tries to find him. Knight has to go hurriedly back to Speedy. And this is the best little period for Edgeworth in the match thus far. McLaughlin takes on Angus. And now in towards McBrain. Hensley was strong in the air as he has been all afternoon. And now Marshall. Pedisano on that right boot, swinging it in. McLaughlin is going to fall awkwardly in the end. Michael Lee appealing for the free kick and getting it.
I was going to say, Bart, that's the first time I've seen Edgeworth have a deep midfield runner running beyond the back four, i.e. Dylan Holtz ran on the back four, where Brisbane Strikers have been doing it all day and causing a few problems for Edgeworth. That's the first time. Normally Edgeworth, that's what they do very well. That's the first time I've seen it happen today.
Yeah, that's right. Now, Holt saw that hole very, very early, and think that the ball that came through to him was probably a little bit slower than what he wanted it from Sanders. So, you know, there are holes there. If that's a way that Edgeworth can get in behind them.
So Braden Steele on for the Strikers. Ryan Palmer off. Braden Steele, one of the Strikers juniors, and has come from their 20 side into the Strikers first team. Strikers 20s finishing in third this season. They don't have any finals actually in their 20s competition in NPL Queensland.
Okay.
It's just all about development. This one I'll triple over
Our
towards the
20s final
touchline.
was the biggest upset in recent history, wasn't it? Western beating Maitland, sorry.
Hamilton. And a big shout out to Steve Pittman, the media manager for the Strikers. He's up in Queensland watching this one this afternoon. I had a good chat to him on Friday night about all things Strikers. So he's filled me in on plenty of information. So thanks to Steve up there in Queensland. And at the moment, the Strikers will be heading home to play a grand final against Heidelberg for a spot in their round of 32 of the FFA Cup.
That is if things stay as they are. And we know the record that Edgeworth have got in closing out matches. And whilst they've only one down, they'll be highly considering that they're still in this game. And with 8 minutes left on regular time, they'll start pressing, you would imagine, more so than what they have done before. And I would expect, hopefully for them, that they can get themselves back in the game. Because at the moment, it's still all Brisbane.
That's the thing, while it is only one goal, they'll give themselves a chance. But as soon as they can make it to the Strikers, that will be it. Here's Amori. Turns away from Holtz. Then Pedisano arrives. And here he goes, Aaron Pedisano, diving in on Angus. I don't think he got him there in the end, Pedisano. Angus is just going to take a little time out of the match. I didn't hear any noise there. I don't know about you, CT. You haven't got the headphones on. Did you hear any clattering of bodies there?
Not at all.
I didn't hear anything.
Look, Pedisano, it appeared that he pulled right out of that one, and I'm not sure that he's gone down for contact. It may have been for something different.
The way he fell, Michael Angus?
Potentially so, and he's getting up gingerly, so maybe, might have been an ankle or something like that. It doesn't look like he's going off because he's been clipped.
And you may be able to hear the wind in the microphones. It is howling from the south behind the Strikers. It's just come right up, and it has cooled things down immensely. Amori now to McLean. Nice nod on from Marsh, and now Michael Lee's got no one at the back post at the moment.
He's been good, Michael Lee. He's been one of Brisbane's best for me.
Speaking man of the match, I tell you what, Michael Lee, he'd probably be right up there for me.
Yeah, Michael Lee's been good. I thought Jeremy Stewart's been he was very good, but he's been substituted. McLean's been everywhere. But Michael Lee's, every time he gets the ball, he looks very dangerous. But you have to give credit to Brisbane Strikers back four and their captain,
Angus.
number 8, Michael Angus. He's just sat and screened that back four perfectly today. He's just been the clog in the wheel, hasn't he, CT?
Yeah, I think so. And guys like him do a lot of work that go unnoticed. And we're talking to Mark Wilson before, and he's one of those players. You get them in the side, they work. You don't realise how much they're getting done until you're playing against them. And you can see right now he's right in the thick of the action. As you said, he's screened the back four very well. But not only that, he's been a distributor and just dropping things off short and getting off again. So he's been a huge influence for Brisbane Strikers today.
Here's Amori. Off Evans and to a Pedisano. A reminder, stick with us post-match here. We're going to have a chat to the man of the match and the winning coach as well. Here's Michael Lee. That would have been a nice way for him to end this tie.
Doherty's been pretty superb in the centre of the park as well. Him and Angus have worked really well in tandem, sort of screening the back four.
Absolutely, and the physical presence of Doherty as well. You can see he's a very strong, fit footballer, and his touch is great, and his distribution is very strong.
As much as we've said throughout the NPL season, these matches, they're all about, these finals matches, they're all about the result, aren't they? So Edgeworth have got to push on here.
That's exactly right. It's all about the result. It's not about possession, corners, how well we've been playing. It's all about the end result.
Yeah, absolutely. And, both clubs have had a very, very long season, when you consider the pre-season into account. One of them is going to finish in 4 minutes' time. So, there's no tomorrow for Edgeworth if they don't get a goal shortly.
So Zach Maltby comes on in 21 for the Strikers, and Jake McLean is off. He's done an immense amount of work.
Yeah, he's been superb today. But just on Zane, he must have to think about maybe even just dropping back to a back three. Their side's very accustomed to that.
He's got to, I think, is Doherty. Wheeler, can he hold the ball up? He did really well in a tight spot, Pat Wheeler. And now Maltby, the fresh legs. Does he get the free kick, Zach Maltby? He doesn't. And he looks in a little bit of trouble here. The young man who's just come onto the park. Here's Holtz. He's in all sorts here. So will Edgeworth put the ball out here? Maltby is in a lot of trouble. Back on halfway. We'll stick with the play. Evans slides it through. A Pedisano. It's allowed to run over for a goal kick.
Just on that, well defended by Amore on a Pedisano. That was high quality defended the way he shielded the ball out.
Yeah, totally agree there. And Edgeworth didn't have any intentions of putting that ball over the fence.
Did he fall on his arm here? That's what I felt happened.
Yeah, I think Damien Zane for Edgeworth, there's only 5 minutes to go, or 3 minutes plus stoppage time. He needs to really reconsider even going to back two. They're only playing with one striker up the front. I'd play a back two, bomb a few men forward, a few really high, wide wingers, really spread the game. Spread the back four of the Brisbane Strikers, spread their midfield.
I think with that, he looks like he's going to bring on Moriyasu. Now, Moriyasu is, for the Brisbane viewers, has been in the past someone that's come on late in the game and made an impact because he's that kind of player, very quick, light on his feet, and he can score goals. So we're looking like this may be a substitution here, boys. And
well, they're going to have to play with 10 men here, the Strikers. So if Maltby can't continue, this is terrible luck for Owen Baker's men. They're going to have to play with one man down. If Maltby cannot play out the remainder of this one, they've called for the stretcher.
Whether he is holding his arm or whether he's limping as well.
He's definitely fallen awkwardly, he must have.
Maybe his knee.
Yeah, he's been carried off now, so it must be a leg complaint. For Zach Maltby, a terrible way for his afternoon to end so abruptly after he just came onto the ground. So here we go. So it is an attacking move, obviously. It has to be. Kigo Moriyasu on and McLaughlin off. Aaron McLaughlin playing at left back this afternoon. And Moriyasu on, but I just feel it's too late.
Oh yeah, I probably went about 10 minutes ago at least, went to a back three. They're just playing the one up front and probably just tried to spread the game. Even now, look how condensed the game is. Owen Baker's men, they've got 1 minute of normal time plus probably 4 minutes of injury time, you'd think, boys?
Evans, Moriyasu, he'll be full of running. Michael Lee turns away.
He's been good, Michael Lee, hasn't he?
I'd say he's in pole position for man of the match at the
Yeah,
moment.
he hasn't stopped, has he?
I want to take it quickly here, Edgeworth.
Yeah, he certainly made his presence felt in this game, and like we said, you know, he just like Palmer on the other side has been absolutely wonderful for Brisbane in the middle of the park.
Here is Lee. Even though it is a little tough to track down for Luke Marsh, they'll appreciate the ball being down the other end of the ground. The Strikers.
And you've got Angus here,
7 minutes of added time, so there is plenty of time.
7 minutes?
7 minutes. Now that's to go with the injury to Maltby, the stoppage for the drinks break as well. So the Eagles have got a lot of time. There's this one called in by Moriyasu.
So there's still an opportunity for Edgeworth, isn't there, CT? Obviously, Brisbane with 10 men. They're going for an attacking formation now.
Yeah, and if we give some credit here to Brisbane, as they did in the last set piece, you can almost throw a handkerchief over the whole field here. Look how condensed that is. That's everyone within a 20 by 20.
Now, boys, just think about this for a second. If Edgeworth score and it goes into extra time, Brisbane are down to 10 men for half an hour of extra time. Here's Josh Lowe.
You're very good at maths, aren't you, Bart?
And thought about that for a second. That's not good news for Brisbane if that was the case.
It's a Pedisano.
What they need to do here really is do what they've done all game. Keep nice and compact, stay with their runners, surround the ball, and just limit the outs, if you like, as in the switches in play.
Just looking at Michael Angus here, the Brisbane captain. He's marshalling the trip so well here at the moment. It's very important they stay compact and there's no one out defending.
Yeah, look, no arguments from me about Lee as man of the match, but, you know, really big mention to Angus in the performance that he's put on here this afternoon. All of the reasons we've mentioned before, but right now, when you're a man down and you've got 5 minutes to go, that's where you need him. And he's directing traffic around and he's leading by example. And he's right in the front of the back four, just screening the play.
Here it is, Bauer. Now Sanders, he is offside, Kieran Sanders, because he probably would have finished as well. And just in regards to that injury to Maltby, if you two were coaching, it's 1-0. There is potentially a chance of it going to extra time. Do you hold one substitution up your sleeve as the coach? Or do you go all out?
Mate, that was only 5 minutes to go. I would have made the substitution. That's just unfortunate. He only just came on the park. So it's just one of those unfortunate things. You know, in hindsight, Owen Baker might have thought that, but...
It's very easy in hindsight, I know.
Yeah, but you know what? They've got about, 5 minutes to go. I think they're a good chance of closing out the game, Brisbane. They've been rock solid all day. They've been very disciplined.
Here's Holtz. Doherty flowing through the middle of the ground. They've got 5 minutes, 7 minutes of added time in this second half due to the drinks break midway through this half, due to that extreme heat here at Edgeworth, up above 35 for much of the match. Bazari. Now with Bauer. It's a tight spot for Will Bauer.
And again, numbers around the ball from Brisbane. They've done it very well all day.
Michael Lee. This is really well done by the Strikers, just picking Edgeworth off down the left flank. Amori. There's some fabulous skill by the man from Japan.
Yeah, he's been very good as well, hasn't he, CT? The whole back four.
So Will Bauer has got a ton of space over on the left.
And again, Michael Lee. 1-2.
Michael Lee. Lovely turn from Lee. Threads it through. Here he is. A shot well saved by Josh Lowe. Braden Steele, and it will be a penalty to the Strikers. Michael Lee puts it in anyway. Well saved by Josh Lowe with Steele with the shot. And Michael Lee will be the man to take the spot kick to round out this one.
Was all Michael Lee. The lead up, the pass, the dinks in the middle, the decision making, and then the roll off.
He loves stoppage time goals, Michael Lee. He scored 2 big ones last year. This one not quite as big. To seal it, Michael Lee rolls it home, and the Strikers are going through to the NPL Grand Final for the first time in their history. Calmly rolled home by the Englishman.
Not only has he had a great game, but what a terrific finish in the penalty that was. He picked his spot, hit it with authority, made no mistake at all, and he sent his side into the final. And this team here have deserved the result they've got today.
And I tell you what, they're going to be hard to beat at home. I know Heidelberg Victorian premiers, but they're going to be hard to beat up at Perry Park next weekend.
So it's going to be none from 3 for Northern New South Wales sides against Queensland opposition in the NPL finals. Will Bauer across to McBreen. He's head of central. Well cut out. Keanu Moore trying to get through. Find Moriyasu with the touch.
And if you try and think about how many clear-cut chances Edgeworth have had, has been very limited, mainly due to this back four. Actually, the whole defensive shape of Brisbane has been such discipline.
Have they relied on Daniel McBreen too much in the back end at the back end of the season? I mentioned they haven't won since July without him scoring.
And look, they've got Sam Knight, their right fullback, bombing forward in the 90th minute.
Sam
Full
Knight
credit to Brisbane Strikers.
is fouled. Smudge, do you think they've relied too much on McBreen in the back end of the season? That's the difference we've noticed between Edgeworth this year and last year, is they haven't scored as many goals.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. They're a great team unit, and you know, a lot of the younger players did very well in the back end of the season.
They'll be back bigger and stronger next year.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I think you've got to instill them as favourites again.
Yeah, I totally agree. For the NPL, for
the
local
NPL, Northern New
NPL.
South Wales next season. And the Strikers, well, if they keep this roster, they'd have to go close to being the favourites up north. And either them or Heidelberg will be playing in the FFA Cup round of 32 next season if they win next weekend. The Strikers not making it to the round of 32 this year. That shock loss in the preliminary rounds.
Oh, great touch.
Luke Marsh. Here's Steele. Now Michael Lee, man of the match for us this afternoon. We may even try and grab Owen Baker as well, so make sure you stick with us. If you're a Brisbane Strikers fan up north, we're going to have a chat to those two post-match. Here's Martian over the line for a Strikers corner. They've suffocated the life out of the Eagles this afternoon. So an interesting stat regarding Edgeworth with McBreen. In finals matches or round of 32 cup matches with McBreen, they've played 13 times. He scored in 8. They've won 7 of those. They've lost 1. And when he hasn't scored, they've played 5 and they've won just 2. So the importance of their main man up front. And the Strikers' defence have done a job on the Edgeworth attacking line. That will be a goal kick. So the dying embers of this one. Josh Lowe goes quickly. Stephen Laurie looks at the whistle. And Brisbane break the Queensland curse and become the first side from the Sunshine State to reach the NPL Finals Grand Final. It may have taken 5 years, but it will be well worth the wait if the Strikers can celebrate success next weekend against Heidelberg. The Eagles, meanwhile, their first home game in the competition is a disappointing one as they bow out in the semi-finals for the first time. But it has been another outstanding season for Northern New South Wales football's premier side. Full time here this afternoon at Jack McLaughlin Oval. It finished Edgeworth Eagles 0, Brisbane Strikers 2. And Chris Turner, they 100% deserved this one this afternoon, didn't they?
Yeah, they sure did. Look, Brisbane have come out right from the outset. They did everything, the little things well, and we spoke all through the game about their defensive effort, the defensive line, through the middle of the park in particular, and the way that they got numbers around the ball, and they made it very difficult for Edgeworth to play. And what I was most impressed about was, particularly Bart, was whenever Edgeworth had the ball, they had someone on the ball player, and then everything else around him was locked up, and then they limited the chances for a switch of play, caused turnovers, and that caused problems for Edgeworth. And for me, the opportunities were mostly in the Brisbane strikers' end, and they took the opportunity that they got the goal, and then Michael Lee at the end, he razzle-dazzled and kept things very calm and created the opportunity for penalty. So all in all, I don't think anyone from Edgeworth could disagree that Brisbane had thoroughly deserved this chance today to take the victory the way they did, and did it with authority. But
Yeah, they were so impressive. They've got Heidelberg next week up at Perry Park in Queensland. And that's going to be a really good contest, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely it will be. And, you know, this is what it's all about, this premier competition, getting what's now effectively the two best NPL clubs coming together in a final series, and won't miss it. We will not miss that one for sure. And you know, the Edgeworth players, to their credit, they battled away. They've worked very hard today. It's the end of their season. It's been a long one. We've enjoyed locally here covering them, and they've been, you know, deservedly been in this semi-final against Brisbane. But again, Brisbane too strong, got the job done, and just they looked overall. Gee, they looked well practiced, organised, and you know, they just kept everything going the way from the outset right through to the end. I think full credit to them, and no doubt they will enjoy the trip home now and look forward to next week.
And interesting, just out there on the ground, Hiroki Amori and Kigo Moriyasu are having a little chat there. So great to see the two Japanese players from each side out there having a bit of a catch up as we just await Michael Lee. He's about to come up and join us. But CT, it's been a great season. We thought we were done about 3 weeks ago after the grand final, and we've come back again for this one. So this is it. So thanks for a great season.
It's like the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
This is definitely it. It's like Johnny Farnham, isn't it? More farewells than Johnny Farnham. So Michael Lee will be with us shortly. So next week it'll be decided in due course, the time and day. Last year it was on a Sunday afternoon, the grand final, and I will get out of your way, CT, and you can have a chat to Michael Lee. I'll let you take it away.
I'm here with Michael Lee, who is our man of the match for the semi-final. Michael, we haven't met before. I'm CT. How you going? Mate, you've played a terrific game today. Playing in the heat, all these conditions. What was the instruction going out, and what's the build-up been like this week?
Definitely not the build-up that we expected. We got a flight delayed on Friday, and since then everything that could go wrong, I think, did go wrong. Just from the big things to the little things, but I feel it in the team that we're a good group. We believe in each other. We believe in the philosophy that strikers bring, and everyone at the club, we believe in each other. We knew that even though we have been through the bad stuff, we could turn around and do the job today.
We spoke plenty of times throughout the game how your midfield made it very difficult for Edgeworth to play by the fact that every time they're on the ball, you had players at the ball player and then everything else locked up around them. Is that something you work on?
We definitely do work on it, but for me the key thing is we believe in each other, we trust in each other, and for me, if you're willing to fight for each other and the mate alongside you, I think that goes way further than any talent as far as football can bring, personally.
Yeah, and also finally, you know, a home final in Brisbane. What will it mean to your players, your supporter base, your families?
We're just so excited. We set a high standard at the start of this year. A few things we haven't completed, but we feel that we've give it a real good go. And as far as the players, we just want, we always want to represent strikers as a club, and the people at the club, like on and off the field, and people that we don't see helping out, and we just like to repay them. We've won the league, which is good, but let's try and get a special little bonus for him and win it at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've been our man of the match today. Thoroughly deserved it. We picked out a number of players that were also up there with you, but enjoy the week, enjoy the final, and you've thoroughly deserved the win today.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us, and it's a nice pitch. I enjoy playing on it.
Yeah. Cheers. All right. Thanks very much, Michael. And you over to Damien Smith.
Okay, we have Owen Baker, the victorious coach. Mate, you've had 2 games head coach. How's it been? 2 wins on the trot into an NPL final series grand final next weekend. Must be a great start to your coaching career.
Yeah, it is. Listen, obviously delighted, but also very lucky. This isn't about me. I was assistant coach at the start of this year and very lucky to work with the boys all year. So, right place, right time after our last head coach left. But the boys have carried on business as usual. They won the league this year, and we when that happened with our old coach leaving, we decided we wanted to do well in these last 3 finals games, and I couldn't have asked for better more. They've been superb in training. You saw today, tough conditions. We've had a tough last 41 hours. I said to the boys before we left Brisbane 41 hours ago. Got stuck on the tarmac for a few hours, but we never let it affect us. If anything, we used it as motivation to come here and do even better. So superb. The boys have been excellent.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up, but on thoughts on today's game, Edgeworth, obviously a tough assignment coming here, but your boys, you're so disciplined in defence, disciplined in attack. Your rotation in midfield was superb, but your structure was absolutely spot on today and nullified any Edgeworth attack.
We knew we're a team that likes to have the ball and dominate games in possession, but we knew as a priority today we had to come well and defend. And it's okay having the ball, but the boys' work rate today was off the ball. We knew it was going to be tough. We knew that the strengths that Edgeworth had and McBreen and Sanders, but to come here and keep a clean sheet is outstanding. And that was the boys, their discipline and their effort in that moment of the game. So we're really happy, really happy.
Yeah. Your captain Angus, I thought he was superb. Just screening in front of that back 4, he was absolutely superb and just missed our player of the match. We gave it to Michael because he scored the penalty in the end, but he was superb as well, Michael. Jeremy Stewart up front, he worked his butt off, didn't he, in defence?
Yeah, he did. It was hard up there for him today, because he had 2 centre-backs to worry about, and obviously the heat. But it took us a few minutes to get into the game. But once he realised, we just wanted to keep him onto that one side and force him down there and then win it there. And listen, Gussie was excellent today, but he also had Ethan Doherty next to him, and the 2 of them were superb. They won a lot of second balls, and like I said, it's not pretty. It sometimes isn't pretty, but it's what gets you through, what gets you the win. And the boys in front, the midfielders that you spoke about, and Jez are up top. They're lucky that they've got a back line and the boys at the back behind them, because that gives them a great platform to go out and play.
I was going to mention Marshall and also Hensley at the back. They were superb, and you're right, Knight and Amora were brilliant as well going forward. But anyway, just finally, on to next week's final against Heidelberg. What are your thoughts? Back at Perry?
Back at Perry, we're looking forward to that one. Yeah. Obviously, to get our family and friends back and all the supporters at Strikers who we know have been watching. Last week, they were at the club watching on the live stream. So we're looking forward to going back home and playing in front of our fans. But what a great test. Heidelberg are a quality team. They've had a great year in their NPL Victoria, good FFA Cup run. And so it's going to be a tough game. But we're in it to play the best teams, and we want to finish as the best team. So we can't wait.
Well, on behalf of us from Northern South Wales, we wish you all the best against Heidelberg next week in the final.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Like Michael said.
Thanks, Owen. Cheers, mate. And I'll hand you over to Bart.
All right, we'll wrap it up, Smudge. Thanks. I'll try not to trip on stuff. Just your final thoughts, boys, on the match, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I thought Brisbane Strikers virtually dominated the game. They were very good today. I thought they handled the heat very well, but they were just so well structured and disciplined in attack and defence, and well deserved.
And CT next week, Strikers take on Heidelberg. Your thoughts on that one?
Look, I haven't seen much of Heidelberg at all, but what I can say about Brisbane, if they continue in that sort of fashion and they're that organised and they play with the defence that they did and the midfield as tight and as structured as they were, they're going to be hard to beat. So, best of luck to both teams, but on what I've seen today, Brisbane are a good chance next week.
Well, thanks for joining us this afternoon. For all the Northern fans, thanks for watching us throughout the NPL season. That wraps it up for this afternoon. It finished full-time. Edgeworth Eagles 0, Brisbane Strikers 2.
cross again from the corner. And Juric! This is your stage.